listening to Driving Law, a podcast by Kyla Lee about all things related to the rules of the road.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Driving Law. I am Kyla Lee, actually at Acumen Law Corporation, and virtually with me is my co-host, Paul Doroshenko.
Hi, Kyla. Nice to see you. Haven't seen you for a few days.
I know you've abandoned your post at the helm of the Acu ship and just taken off.
Yeah, well, I'm doing my Willie Loman impersonation. I'm the salesman driving around with a van full of liquor. And, I'm in Kelowna right now, but I've been all across the southern part of the province this summer doing this, and I have to say it's emotionally draining in a different way than law.
Well, you're also going to be out for the next 3 weeks of podcasts as well, so.
Yeah, well, I've got vacation, so 2 weeks of that, and but I don't think it's 3 weeks in total.
It is, yeah.
A podcast?
Next 3 Fridays, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, you say you leave on the 14th, so the 15th, the 22nd, and you come back on the 31st.
Oh, okay.
22nd,
Well,
29th.
it'll be a couple of podcasts by the Fraser River somewhere.
Yeah, and in the meantime, I'm staging a coup.
Well, you can do that. Maybe you and Roy and AK and Jody can just take over, change the locks.
Yeah, no, if I'm staging a coup, it's a dictatorship, not a council.
You're not going to continue with our kumbaya semi-communist method of running the office.
Nah, it's Kyla's way all the time now. You're not
Oh,
here.
okay.
You can't control me, can't stop me.
I always knew you were slightly prone to being a dictator.
I just think I have all the right answers. Anyway, speaking of all the right answers, I don't know how that transitions into our big conversation today, but Shambhala Music Festival.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, I mean they had a huge I guess road safety thing that they were doing.
I mean, there are these big festivals in BC, a number of them, and people are sleeping in tents and campers and in their cars and not sleeping at all.
Yeah.
And there's lots of alcohol, and I would assume, and certainly we know a lot of drug use.
Yeah.
This one is in Salmo, I guess, so in the Kootenays, sort of north central Kootenays. Is that?
Yeah, it's near Nelson. So it was a joint operation with the BC Highway Patrol and Nelson Police from July 21 to 25. And there were over 800 different infractions, we'll call them, different things that people were cited for.
Yeah, I noticed that. A lot of speeding tickets apparently, and 8 excessive speeding tickets or something like that.
360 speeding tickets, 9 excessive speeding tickets, 11 no insurance tickets, and 11 notices to, basically go get your mechanical inspection done on your vehicle.
There's a significant portion of the population in that part of the province who don't have a whole lot of respect for the law generally. Don't want to have an insured vehicle. The long tradition of that, long before the free man of the land sort of thing came about, although that's part of it too. But I guess probably the most interesting thing of this was that they were actually set up to do like full-on drug recognition evaluations.
Yeah, so they ended up issuing 59 24-hour suspensions, along with 24 of those are going to be full-fledged criminal code investigations for impairment by drugs. And they did something that is like unprecedented, I think, in Canada, which is they had an RV basically set up there where they had a qualified technician, a lab tech, ready to draw people's blood for those investigations. So they took 24 blood samples in that little RV at the side of the road.
Who's the phlebotomist? Is
I
it
have
an RCMP officer?
I have no idea. They used Alexa's bus. I know that from the photos, but I don't know whether it was, I guess we should tell our listeners, watchers, that when the changes were made to the criminal code in December 2018, one of the things that they changed was that you didn't require either a qualified medical practitioner or like a nurse or a phlebotomist to draw blood. They now made it so that RCMP officers who were qualified technicians were also entitled to do a blood draw,
Yeah.
which I always thought was
But we
fucking
haven't
bonkers.
seen it. We hadn't seen it before.
Never happened because they kept saying we're not wanting to assume the liability. Nobody wants to, if somebody gets hurt or you poke yourself with a needle that some drug users used and, all the things that they're afraid of. Although
If I were
there's
a
never
police
been
officer, I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot cattle prod.
There has never been like disease transmission ever recorded from a needle stick, but still.
Yeah.
But still, the point is this is probably the first time in Canada this has ever been done. I have so many thoughts about it.
Well, I want to hear all your thoughts because you've obviously been thinking about it more than me.
Well, number one, 24 blood draws. Obviously, like they did this, and this was at the end of the festival. So this was just on one day, as people were leaving because they were screening for people who were still on drugs. Probably not on drugs going into the festival. You're probably on drugs coming out.
Over how many hours? Like, how do you do 24 blood draws and keep track of all those records and actually have them be correct and reliable?
What, have you never been to a Life Labs lab where you go and they're doing like 16 blood draws every 10 minutes?
Yeah, that's a Life Labs lab.
Well, I don't know. I'm assuming.
And how many DREs? How long does it take to go through the whole DRE process and then come to the conclusion that you've got grounds to draw blood?
So that's the thing. My understanding is that they were not doing the DRE because the criminal code doesn't require you to do the DRE, right? If you do the SFST and they get all the clues necessary to form their opinion, or just on the way they're presenting, you form the opinion that they're impaired by drugs, you can request the DRE and then a bodily fluid sample after. But the criminal code also authorizes you, if you have reasonable grounds to believe somebody's ability to operate a motor vehicle is impaired by a drug, to go straight to blood.
Straight to a blood demand.
Yeah, that's a change again that came about.
Again, we haven't seen it.
We have not seen it.
Not seen that yet.
Very rare. Actually, I think I had one case where they did that, but that person would not have been in a position to participate in the DRE. So
There's a number of things that they put into the code in that December 18th, 2018 change that we haven't seen happen.
yeah.
And a lot of them, I think, would not withstand a charter challenge. I don't know about this because I haven't thought this part through and through, but a lot of them would not withstand a charter challenge.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's my big thought number one. But thought number two, that's 24 blood samples just from one event, not every other blood or urine sample that was collected for forensic analysis over the course of that day in the province. And yeah, I mean, we have not that many blood or urine samples taken, but there's been, as we talked about previously, a lot of fatal crashes this year. And in fatal crashes, you often have blood draws for forensic purposes. And so, how overloaded is the lab going to be?
Yeah. Yes, I suppose. The lab was so backed up for the longest time. Maybe that's why we didn't see this happening. Maybe that's why we didn't see it happening because they've cleared the backlog. We know that.
Yeah.
It's no longer 12 months or 6 to 9 months to get a blood result. And they've obviously hired some staff or whatever. Maybe police officers just stopped sending it in because nothing was coming. But whatever the reason, they cleared the backlog. So maybe they're prepared, I'm assuming, to deal with it.
Yeah, but I mean, if this becomes like the new thing that they're going to keep doing, isn't that just going to create the backlog again?
Well, I mean, it's all an issue of, as we've talked about since the pandemic started, there's been so much, has been an issue of the labor shortage at the RCMP in
Yes.
their lab, in their, traffic divisions across the country, apparently. You and I were speaking with a fairly senior officer lately who told us that the failure rate at depot in Regina has gone way up. I don't know why. That we were part of it. We were part of a chat group with a bunch of lawyers across North America, and earlier today, and people were lamenting some of the applicants for positions in their offices. And I was thinking to myself that I don't want to make vast generalizations about a cohort of people. And I don't think I don't think you should ever. And I think people have been doing that for forever and been wrong every time that, people are always saying, oh, these kids these days. But there are some things that seem to be borne out to some extent by statistics. In
Yeah.
any event, yeah, I mean, it's been a labor shortage.
Fair. Okay, my next thought about this is
How long until AI is doing all the tests?
oh lordy, I didn't even think about that. No, like what strain this is going to put on the system if they're doing criminal code investigations. And like obviously a lot of these, what's going to happen, because we see this, is after the results come back, if they're positive for whatever, or they're above the, prescribed blood drug concentration, then they're gonna just issue them an ADP and not actually charge criminally.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine in many cases that will be the case because they didn't do the DRE and, try and prove that the person is actually impaired by
Well,
that.
you could get
Or that they have
go ahead.
no, that the concentration would be such that it's criminal. And there will be things obviously to challenge for us if they're charged with a criminal offense, both on the charter aspect of it and then the reliability of the testing, which is something we've had a lot of good results with.
Well, think about like how complex it's going to be to prosecute one of those cases. Like your ordinary impaired driving case with all the charter issues, with like a stop, ASD, breath samples, 3 days, 3 days of court time. Now you're factoring in a demand for a blood sample, which,
Add a day and a half of court time.
raises more issues. There's more disclosure that's going to be needed to be provided. And if they're trying to prosecute based on blood drug concentration, an impaired, in addition to the above the per se limit, they're going to have to bring in a toxicologist. And if they bring in a crown toxicologist, then you're probably also going to have the defense bringing in a defense toxicologist to go, well, no, I don't know, tolerance. And
Add 2 days.
yeah, and add 2 days of time. Like, are they really going to spend 5 to 7 days of court time litigating 24 cases? Like, there's the Nelson court schedule for a year.
Add the time for judges to render a decision on all of those different voir dires. Your 8 to 10 days probably is more likely by the time you're done, and they'll end up stretched out into multiple different days. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I impression that this was a grand, well-publicized thing for the sake of general deterrence in itself, and to sort of counter the point that we've been making for a while that others have noticed, and that is that there's been a lack of enforcement generally in the province since the a year after the pandemic, 2022 on, basically it's been an overall lack of enforcement. And so I suspect there's that. But what I've been thinking about is they get those results back and then they have to serve an ADP. And just trying to find the people to serve the ADPs is often like takes up so much policing resources. And half the people are in Alberta.
I was going to say, I had somebody who they contacted RCMP in Alberta to go to the person's house and serve them an ADP in Alberta. I don't remember what happened with that, but I know I argued. I was like, you can't serve an ADP in Alberta.
There was an issue. Yeah, there was something with that, and I think we were successful on that. It's more than once that we've had that argument. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's actually interesting that you brought up Alberta and a lack of enforcement, because Alberta has discovered that their lack of enforcement over regulations of tow trucks has led to a lot of problems.
Yes, indeed. And this was something that we talked about being a topic, and I thought you'd forgotten about it as a topic.
No.
Uh, it's a
So, yeah.
fascinating thing, especially after we see what's gone on in Ontario, right? There's been a tow truck war in Ontario, and it's like broken out into violence in Toronto. And now we have tow truck fraud alert in Alberta with
Yeah.
towing companies.
Yeah. So this is
So look
Edmonton
out
Police.
for it.
Edmonton police did an investigation into 10 different tow truck companies, and they found basically widespread fraud to the tune of like $200,000. These companies were inflating their bills. They were billing insurance companies for things they never did. They were basically using accidents and the insurance companies as a way to cash in fraudulently, and it's $200,000. Like, that's a lot of people who are gonna end up, probably with jail sentences.
Yeah, the fascinating thing is the sort of connection of the tow truck companies to the police. They always have some sort of authorization or authority that goes well beyond their power, and they've got the power to basically pick up your vehicle and take it, and then it's extortion to get your vehicle out, right? And it feels like it to people. That's why in the Simpsons episode they talked about it as the impenetrable fortress of suburbia is the towing yard where your vehicle has gone.
Okay, I don't remember that
And
from.
yeah, I mean, it's such a um, an industry that is desirous or needing to be heavily regulated, almost like more than a profession, because they've got so much power to ding you numerous times in small amounts.
Mhm.
And here we've got, what started off as apparently just like a tip of some sort or a complaint that led into a full-on investigation that led into these numerous fraud charges.
Well, if any, lower mainland police forces are listening, isn't there an integrated commercial crime unit? I think there is.
Yeah.
Um, if they're listening, I can tell you I've had a lot of clients make complaints to me about being billed for things that didn't happen at the tow yards, having items taken from their vehicles at tow yards, tow yard operators lying to them about when they can get the vehicle out to get a couple extra days of storage, all sorts of stuff. I actually
All of these things
I got
we've
in a
seen.
screaming match once with a tow truck operator. Not my proudest moment as a lawyer, but he was doing something that was clearly illegal, wasn't letting my client access the vehicle, which he's entitled to do by statute, um,
Yep.
and preventing him from gathering evidence in his case.
Yeah.
And like, what can you do? What can you do? Like, you can't. There's no remedy for that.
Once your car's gone, okay, so you get an IRP, a 90-day IRP. You can, if the police will allow you, take things out of your vehicle, but you often can't take everything. I've had people who have, like, guys with vans with all their tools in it.
Yep.
And then they go back to the tow yard because the keys have gone with the tow yard, and a bunch of their, smaller, more important things are missing.
Yep.
And it's only been in the tow yard, and you have nothing you can do. Like, there's no recourse, because what are you going to do? You go down to the RCMP and say that that people in the tow yard stole from you. The RCMP or the police are not really interested in investigating that ever, because they've got this relationship with the towing company. You've got your evidence against theirs, and the allegation then is, well, you were drunk, and so you don't know what was in your car, or the
Yep.
damage that's to your car was pre-existing and you were drunk and you don't know, and it was probably while you were drinking and driving that it happened to you. And so you feel like you've got nothing unless like, we have had clients who've done walkarounds with their vehicles, taken good videos of their vehicles, and an inventory of what's in there.
Well, the
And
police are supposed to be doing an inventory.
Well, the police inventory search is usually just a de facto search for evidence that is no longer authorized because they've made the decision to go by way of IRP, right? Once the arrest is no longer an arrest and no longer a detention, they're no longer entitled to be searching that vehicle, but they do it anyway,
Yeah.
looking for evidence usually. But the inventory search is a meaningless thing. And when you go pick up your vehicle and find that there's damage to it that's been caused since the tow and there's things missing, you have no recourse. You got nothing you can do. Like it's just the power of the towing company against you. And unless you've got a secret camera set up in your car,
then nothing you can do.
which would be something that I would think some investigators could wisely do.
Like they do bait cars, but bait cars for tow car
Big
companies.
cars for towing companies set up
Yeah.
a camera in there
Put
and
some
monitor it.
put some cash on the back seat, see what happens.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
like, a couple hundies in the glove box.
yeah. Just a whole pile of toonies there and see if some of those toonies disappear.
Yeah. All right. So I don't know how
They'll
to
never do it. They'll never do it. So there's no, like, so we're fantasizing about it now, catching some of these people. I had a tow truck driver once on the witness stand who like took off and a high speed chase after my client, and completely unlawful. My client was terrified of this tow truck coming behind him, and we were in the middle of the trial, and the tow truck driver was on the witness stand, and I asked him because he was going so fast. I said, "What? So you decided to go this fast? Yeah. You got a license to speed or something like that?" And the judge interrupted and said, "Mr. Doroshenko, you know there's no such thing as a license to speed. And besides, if there was, I'd have one." Anyway, that was the trial fell apart because the tow truck driver terrified my client, which was half the reason he was driving the way he was.
Fair enough. Well, I guess that kind of dangerous driving transitions into our ridiculous driver of the week.
Yeah, we had a competition this week for ridiculous drivers of the week, but we decided to keep it local, I guess.
Keep it local to British Columbia in Nanaimo. You can find this video circulating online. It is of three motorcyclists who don't look like very nice people,
Yeah.
acting like not very nice people because they see a man on a bike with like a little, like, one of those bike trailers behind him. And they just ride past him and without any warning, for no apparent reason, just push him. And he goes flying across the side of the highway, lands face down, face first, onto the shoulder of the highway on the opposite side of the road. Very violent.
Very violent. I would just be cautious to say that it was one motorcyclist of the three who did it, right? You have no idea if these guys are talking to each other, communicating by way of radios or something to make that decision. I suspect it was just the one who is the ridiculous driver of the week. But yeah, it's terrible. Driving down a solid line roadway, three motorcycles, and the one on the front and the to the left just rides up. They're riding fairly slowly past this guy, cyclist, pulling the wagon, and just shoves him, and he goes across the road and crashes, which was disgusting to watch, ridiculous, and I struggle with motorcyclists, as I've discussed with you privately over the summer, because I've seen so many people on motorcycles doing things that are just absolutely dangerous, and I'm waiting to see somebody go splat. And I drove through an accident scene with a motorcyclist recently who was heavily, significantly injured apparently. But often motorcyclists sort of have a holier than thou attitude, like many cyclists do, right? For some reason, I don't quite understand, justify that, I guess because they're frail, on the motorcycle. And I saw somebody who was a motorcyclist who like took off after somebody when they weren't really cut off recently, but it wasn't a great lane change, and they were
Yep.
doing the wearing thing. We've also had that as a ridiculous driver of the week. But when you see behavior like this, it's really disgusting, and it brings me back to the vulnerable road user law that changed a year ago. It was in June last year, where they acknowledged, wrote into legislation, and we haven't seen any tickets written from it.
No,
But
I don't think. Yeah, I haven't seen anybody ticketed for like those provisions. I mean, maybe they've been ticketed for other things involving vulnerable road users. I have seen people charged with like driving offenses when they've hit like through the regular court process, not the traffic court process, like a 144 where somebody's been injured, where they've injured a cyclist, where it's come up as like an aggravating factor that they were a vulnerable road user, but that's really the only way in which I've seen it.
Yeah, 1 year on, no tickets for it. I don't know that people know that it exists. I'm like the only guy I think who's willing now to just happily, lawfully cross a solid and double solid line when it's safe to pass a vulnerable road user.
Yeah,
Because
I
that
was,
was part of the
I was in the car with you a couple.
right allows you an exemption to break the law otherwise.
Yeah, I was in the car with you a little while ago, and you were like gleeful that you got to drive on the wrong side of the road over a double
Look,
solid
I
line.
get to drive on the wrong side of the road. It's safe.
Yeah. I was not gleeful about that. I have a paranoia about driving on the wrong side of the road for professional reasons.
I know you've seen enough horrible head-on close on,
Yeah.
bad collisions with bad injuries that causes you some fear. Well, I'm fearful of the motorcyclists out there, and I'm worried for the health and safety of everybody on their motorcycles. We defend people on motorcycles. I have friends who ride motorcycles. I know all sorts of people who ride motorcycles. I would never, ever, ever ride a motorcycle on a street. I might ride a dirt bike somewhere where you might run into a tree. But you just cannot anticipate other drivers, and the sense of invulnerability, the feeling that you're a star in a James Bond movie when you're on a motorcycle, and then somebody changes lanes, and that's the end, or it's not the end. You spend the rest of your life paralyzed. But on that happy note,
Yeah, that's our podcast.
it's Friday. That's our podcast.
That's our podcast. Go into your weekend thinking about dying on a motorcycle. Great.
Drive carefully, please.
Yeah. Go into your weekend driving carefully. Yeah, that's the message we want to send. And watch out if your car gets towed, that your stuff might be messed with.
Make a great video, please. Take a lot of photographs.
If you need to reach us related to a drug impaired driving investigation or anything else related to driving, you can find us online at vancouvercriminallaw.com, or you can give us a call at 604-685-8889 and tune in next week for another exciting episode of Driving Law.